If you're trying to decide which LSAT to take, don't worry, the November LSAT is not too late. Hey, what's up everybody? Steve Schwartz here from LSAT Unplugged, joining you today to talk through different LSAT test dates and the timing of the law school admissions cycle. Before I get into it, a little bit about LSAT Unplugged. We offer live online classes via Zoom, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching. Check out the links below this video to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd love to help you out. So the reason I'm making this video is I've been getting tons of questions from students asking me, is the November LSAT too late? Should I go for November, or should I take the LSAT in October, be done with it, submit my applications, and move on with life? Well, I'm here to tell you that the November LSAT is not too late, and this is not a process you want to rush. It is much better to apply to law school slightly later with a higher LSAT score than earlier with a relatively lower LSAT score. Yes, technically, law school admissions is conducted on a rolling basis, meaning that admission officers can evaluate applications in the order in which they're received. However, in practice, whenever you apply, law schools are likely to delay your application for months and months and months, waiting to see who else will come along, namely, who else will come along with a stronger application, meaning, in many cases, a relatively higher LSAT score. So yes, you could take the LSAT in October instead, get your applications in, be done with this, but in my view, you'd likely be doing yourself a disservice, because if you could have applied in November with a higher LSAT score from an additional month of studying, it would have been well worth it for you to delay your application by just a month, and you'd still be applying relatively early in the cycle relative to those taking it in January or February. Yes, years and years ago, back when I first started in my career, the November LSAT or the January LSAT might have been considered late, and folks would be rushing to get their applications in September and October, and law schools might have actually gotten back to them within a reasonable time frame. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case. The cycle has shifted later and later in recent years as law schools hold off on issuing any sort of decision, waiting to see who else will come along. What this means for you is that there's really no disadvantage to applying a couple months later, if doing so would mean that you could submit your application with a higher LSAT score. So in other words, a 173 in November is much better than a 170 in October, or a 165 in November is much better than a 160 in October. So you're best off taking the LSAT and applying whenever you can get the highest LSAT score possible, even if that means taking the LSAT and applying in November or in January or even in February. And yes, there will still be scholarship money available to you when you apply at that later date with that higher LSAT score. Admission officers don't really care so much when you apply as they do about the strength of your application. The American Bar Association and US News does not have any category for when the applicant submitted their application, but they do have categories for LSAT and GPA. Now, your GPA from undergrad is, of course, likely relatively fixed by this point. Your resume is likely pretty fixed as well. And of course, you could keep working on your application essays as you should, but the number one factor in the admissions process is going to be your LSAT score. And so if by taking the LSAT in November or January or even February is going to mean you will be sending in a relatively higher LSAT score, it's worth the wait. Anyway, folks, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please do me a favor, share it with someone who needs to see it. The only way this spreads is by word of mouth. I don't do any advertising for this channel. And so if you know anyone out there who is taking the November LSAT, anyone who's thinking, when do I take the LSAT? Is it November too late? Is January too late? Do me a favor, share this video with them. If you found this video helpful, someone else may find it helpful as well. Anyway, folks, that's all for now. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.